Riff Hamlin here. Welcome. Thanks for joining me today. In this lesson, we're going to talk about a trick. And I'll be perfectly honest, it's a trick, but it's a great trick. And it's not necessarily ridiculously simple, but it's a really, really great way to end a lick. And it creates some really cool phrasing. So if you've ever heard the term phrasing, what we mean is basically how you put notes together into a small, cohesive phrase. I like to equate it to speaking. We have words, and if you string some words together, or you string some notes together, you get a phrase. And same thing happens when you're soloing in the blues, okay, or any style of music, really. But in the blues in particular, phrasing is very important because the places where you leave space, where you leave silence, are often as important or more important than the places where you play. That being said, the places where you play, where you end your phrase is probably the most important thing. And so that's what we're going to talk about, is how you end your phrase. And what we're going to do is kind of blend a very simple minor pentatonic scale or minor blues scale with chord tones, but not just any chord tone, the best chord tone. So there's a little bit to it, but it's really, really not that hard, and I'm going to show you how to do it. I think you'll find that it's fairly simple. So what we're starting with is good old, box one. I'm in the key of A, right? Now, typically we learn that, if you don't already know it, we learn it down here on the, starting on the 5th fret of the 6th string. It's 5th fret, 8th fret, 5th, 6th, and 7th. The 6th fret on that string is what's called the blue note. If you leave it out, we have a minor pentatonic scale. If you leave that out, we get minor pentatonic. On the 4th string, we have the 5th and the 7th fret. On the 3rd string, we have the 5th and the 7th. And again, we have a blue note at the 8th fret. On the top 2 strings, we have the 5th and the 8th fret. Now, most people learn it like that. But I encourage you to get very good at starting it here at the top note, because a lot of blues solos don't ever get to the lower 2 strings. Blues solos almost never start on the bottom. They almost always start near the top. And while they'll move around and go down and go up, it's pretty rare and pretty uncommon to actually go down and use those super low notes. So you want to be more familiar with the top 4 strings. And in fact, when I first learned that scale, let's not talk about how many years ago, I didn't even know it had 2 bottom strings. I learned it the top 4 strings only. Okay, so I think that's an important point and something that's a little bit unique about the way I would like you to view that box. If you're familiar with that box or that pattern, I would like you to view it more from the top of the notes, not from the lower end. Okay, so we got that. Assuming we got that, we need a couple of other little things. One is we have 3 chords, right? We're playing blues and A, so we've got an A7 chord, we've got a D7 chord, right? And we've got an E7 chord, which could be here or it could be here. Either way that you want to play that chord. I'll probably use this one. Admittedly, the trick that I'm going to show you isn't something that I do over the 5 chord. I really only do it with the 1 and the 4 chord. I have found that most of the time when the 5 chord comes around, I've been known to call it no man's land, because in theoretical terms, the 5 chord sort of doesn't belong with the rest, and it creates a situation that doesn't sound very bluesy if you approach it what would be theoretically correct. So I find that I just like to play the minor blues sound, and I found that in transcribing stuff from Albert King and B.B. King and Gary Moore and Stevie Ray Vaughan and all those guys over the years, they kind of do the same thing. Most of us just play the minor blues sound there, and that sounds cool. If you try to do anything that really fits with the chord, what would be theoretically correct, it starts sounding jazzy pretty quickly. So we're going to stick to the minor blues sound over the 5 chord. Mostly what we're going to do is over the 1 and the 4 chord. So if this is my 1 chord, I want you to pay attention to this note, the one that your middle finger is on. This is a C sharp, and it's the 3rd of the chord. Now you don't have to know how chords are built, that's fine. Just understand that this note right here is the most important note of this chord. And in fact, when I play a little version of the chord, That one's one of the three that I play. It's the most important one. Over the D7, this one's the most important one. Okay? It's the one that if I change it, it becomes minor. It's the only note that determines major or minor. So it's most important. I can change anything else, and it's still major. Even if it's ugly, it's still major technically, okay? So those notes are the most important. Along with that, however, you can play the octave below. Right? So, and from here, 2 strings and 2 frets, right? To get an octave, or 3 frets and 2 strings because we crossed the beat. Finding octaves is probably a topic for a different video. So what we're going to do is we're going to make our lines end on that note. So we're just going to play so it's straight up minor blues, but we're going to end at that note. And watch what this does. If I put on a jam track, I just played a little thing into my looper here. So if I play along with that, notice how if I end my line with that note while the A chord is going on, it instantly sort of tightens it up and makes it sound good with the chord. Check it out, let me show you. Then I use the other one for that D chord. Now notice that I don't have to play anything super complicated. I'm really just kind of bebopping around the scale, but I'm listening to the background, and I'm listening for boom, there are the chord changes. When the chord changed to D, when that chord changed, I grabbed that most important note. It really didn't matter what the rest of my lick was, okay? And that's what's kind of important here. So what I'm going to do is try to kind of demonstrate this one more time and, let you play around with it on your own. But the easiest thing to do here is just grab, a slow blues in A jam track or even a shuffle. You can get something that goes a little bit faster if you like. If you've got a nice kind of slow thing going on, you don't have to work too hard at it. But what I want you to really concentrate on is listening to what's going on in the background. Listen to the band. Listen to what beat you're on. And don't focus too much on what's going on here. Just kind of play. And just listen for when you know that the chord is going to change. Try to nail that, and then wait a little bit, and then play a little more, and then when you hear the 4 chord, try to nail that right on the downbeat of that chord, and then wait a little bit, and then try to nail that. Okay, so you're just going to try to listen as the chords go by. Now when the 5 chord comes, just play through it. It's a and then try to nail. It's going to be 5, 4, and then it's going to go to 1. Try to nail the 1, okay? And then you have a little bit of a break. The 5 chord will happen at the very end usually. And then again, you have another chance to try to hit that 1. So every time there's a chord change, you have a chance to try this out. And there's a lot of chord changes, so you got plenty of opportunities. Okay, so the more you can practice this, just put on a jam track and just play along. And just don't worry about what you're playing. Just try to nail that last note on that chord. If you can get good at doing that, and your ear will start to get used to when you have to start so that your noodling ends up at that spot. And the more you do that and the more ingrained that gets in you, the more your phrasing just naturally comes along all on its own, okay? So I'm gonna do this a little bit just as we leave our video today, so you can listen to a little bit more of my just messing around with it and kind of hear what it sounds like. But I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you soon.